What's going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. I'm here with brown belt Roger Mattox. We're going to talk about jiu-jitsu, how it's helped Roger off the mats and everything. Roger, thanks for coming on the show, man. Can you tell us a little bit about you? Like how did you get into jiu-jitsu and what first made you want to sign up for martial arts training?
Well, I've always been attracted to martial arts from an early age, watching Bruce Lee movies and Chuck Norris movies and stuff like that. And but really, what also truly inspired me to start training was just being bullied and whatnot. And so in high school, I started taking a karate class, and in that karate class, they showed us some jujitsu because UFC was getting pretty big and into the mainstream, and so they showed us some jujitsu techniques, and I liked that a whole lot because I didn't get punched and kicked in the face, and so yeah, I just sought that route once I got into college, and then I never really looked back.
That's awesome, man. How long have you been training now?
I've been training since 2011, but I took 2 years off just because I couldn't have fit in what. So I guess 9 years collectively,
Yeah.
and then yeah.
That's about the same for me, man. I've been training for about 12 years, but I took off probably a little over 3. But dude, that's awesome. It's such a powerful thing. So let me ask you this, man. Like, what have you noticed that it did for your mental health? Can you tell us a little bit about like who were you before you got into jiu-jitsu and compare that with who you are today?
So I was highly introverted, and I am, but because you meet so many different people throughout jujitsu, like being able to interact with people on a day-to-day basis truly helped out with the confidence of just being able to talk to people, introduce myself to them, um, and whatnot, but also in public speaking. Uh, uh, Whenever I had to get in front of people and talk, I realized, okay, they're not trying to choke me, they're not trying to break my arm. This is easy, and so it really improved my ability to just interact.
Yeah, that's a big thing, man. Like people talk about public speaking being like something they're more afraid of than dying. So, isn't that crazy? And let me ask you this, like what has this all done for your life off the mats, like your career, your relationships and stuff like that?
um, what well My career, again, it kind of goes back to so I'm a career firefighter. I work for Pascagoula Fire Department in Mississippi, and like during the training of that, I was able to go back to the moments of jujitsu and the mats of where I was just put under extreme pressure, both literally and figuratively, and you know, not trying to limit my time in the fire academy and training and whatnot, but I realized that all those terrible situations were really nothing compared to um, being smushed and whatnot, and like in the confined spaces during training. I was like, well, at least I don't have someone trying to like actively kill me right now. And so yeah, it is let let me know that, and gave me the confidence that no matter what happens and what is happening, that I've been through the thick of it, should be able to come out on the other side doing pretty okay.
I saw just on your Instagram, I was seeing that you competed quite a bit. And I wanted to ask specifically about that. Like, how has competition in jiu-jitsu helped you out as a firefighter?
Um, Being able to work with those nerves. I mean, competition and is, insights and anxiety for sure. And, and so knowing that you're about to go in and have a really, really tough match and whatnot is uh really helps me know like and prepared for the anxiety that I experience whenever I go into a burning building or into a volatile medical situation. I'm able to like work with my nerves and really own my nerves and then own the situation and be in charge of myself and being able to operate under that pressure.
This is something that you brought up now a couple times, is like the ability that jiu-jitsu gives us to operate under pressure, whether it's like public speaking or firefighting or any of these crazy situations. Is there anything that you do like that you feel like specifically carries over? Like, is there anything is there anything that I guess specifically that jiu-jitsu helps out with those two things specifically? I don't know if that question makes any sense.
Um, so sometimes like we do come in contact with a combative patient and whatnot, whether or not they're like battling mental health issues themselves, or if they like they're under the influence of drugs and whatnot, and so then they become like they want to fight us, and so then I'm able to truly just like pin them without being them hurting themselves, without them hurting us, like and truly just like control it, because like sometimes the officers might not be on scene yet, or sometimes the officers kind of take it to a more more of a degree than what's necessary because they're not trained as much as they should be in grappling and whatnot. So um, yeah, sometimes in that also like training in the gi is really, really great and helpful for my grips because in Mississippi we're a very heavy bodied state. Yeah. A lot of people like their cheeseburgers and pizza and whatnot, and so a lot of times we have to go and do lift assists, and so just grabbing clothing or putting a bed sheet underneath them and being able to have that grip strength to like really assist them in that has really helped. And but also sometimes you know it's like understanding leverage. It was is real key. There's some guys that just exhaust themselves, like real bullheaded and stuff. And here I am just trying to like use leverage, and I can go much longer than they can.
Yeah, I think you spoke about something really important, which is that jujitsu is really interesting in the way that you can control someone and you can essentially like completely physically dominate them without actually hurting them. You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
can basically, you can, even if you have to choke someone out at the end of the day, like they're going to be just fine. They're going to bounce right out of it. Whereas, you mentioned karate and striking arts earlier. Like if you're a karate practitioner, you basically have to knock the person out in order to subdue them because that's your weapon, right? And it's the same thing that we see happening with police officers where they have to shoot people because that's their only weapon. They're not trained in grappling. Like they don't know this stuff. So like is that something that you think that more firefighters and more people like you could implement? Like I guess like put differently, what would be the best way to introduce jujitsu to more people like you and get them training? Because obviously it's something that can benefit them and like, in their job performance.
Well, for police officers, they already have a lot of programs, like Adopt a Cop and stuff like that, which that's great and everything. But even though those things are in place, very few of them really take advantage of it. and stuff. So that's kind of sad. But as far as firefighters go, man, I really don't know, because I mean, one, I would like to, we have mats at the station, and so like even trying to convince them to come over, like help me train for something coming up is really hard, because I think it's really hard for them to overcome the mental part of it, of like knowing that they're not good at something, and jujitsu is really hard and it's really tough. And so a lot of people, they don't, especially firefighters, because it's such a macho and ego driven occupation, that they, and very competitive, like they don't want to feel inept on something, especially something physical and whatnot. So I I I have no idea what it would take to get more of us to training.
Well, I think starting to talk about it is important, like what you're doing here, because just because I think that jujitsu in of itself, like it really does humble a person. But I think that what you're saying, like it applies to more people than just firefighters. I think it's men in general. Like in our society, men are taught that, like, oh, you gotta be the tough guy, like you can't lose, you can't fail, all this stuff. You gotta be the guy that wins the fight. Like it's not, I feel like just the dialogue around all that needs to change a little bit for men. And I don't mean it needs to skew all the way to the other side, but I think it needs to be balanced out a little bit. And we need to have a little more healthy talk about, like, hey, it's okay to go to a martial arts class and get your ass whooped. Like this is normal. Like it's just
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And I mean, I just saw a video earlier today of Gordon Ryan rolling with the mountain, like half Thor, everything. And so Mount, he posted, like how he was humbled and everything. And you have the strongest man in the world, and like very big, very large, and like just being ragdolled essentially, uh, by arguably the best no-gi grappler. Well, I guess it's not even arguable at this point. No-gi grappler in the world, and and he posted that, and so I think, and he's got a major following. So I think the more people that can see that, one, size isn't everything, you know, and then someone that is as respected as the mountain is, um, being able to go in and just be humbled like that, I think that alone goes a long way. And that yeah, so I think that's really good. But also, just being able to show more and more people the beauty and the art of jujitsu, which I think is a good move by Gordon Ryan, going to the UFC Fight Pass instead of the One Championship. Because while One Championship has a really good following globally, it's not very well known in the U.S. as far as UFC does. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent
Oh
there.
no. I love it, man. I love it. And yeah, I saw that video too. I thought it was great. I thought that video was great. And one thing just to highlight, like for anyone who watched it, like Gordon used super simple jujitsu in that video against the mountain. It was like he just got a rear clinch, super, super simple rear takedown. And it was like, it was beautiful. Honestly, it was like beautiful Gracie Jiu-Jitsu 101 stuff that we all learn on our first day. So it's like, again, like anyone can learn those techniques, you know what I mean, that he
Yeah,
used. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to execute them like Gordon Ryan on day one, but the techniques he used to defeat the mountain were super simple. Anyone can learn them. If you're listening to this and you haven't trained, like you can you can learn those techniques within 6 months, those exact same ones that he used. And you can then, you have that ability too, because it really just comes down to skill. And when you do that, like, and when you realize that, like, it really does boost your confidence, like what Roger was saying. And man, I think especially with firefighters and people like that. I'm really glad jujitsu is getting more mainstream. Like we see Tom Hardy talking about it, and what's his name, Juji Mufu. He like went to ADCC, and he was making videos there. And I mean, even Liver King, I know Liver King's super controversial, but like he was at ADCC making videos, like, so all these influencers are getting into it, like even if they're not martial arts people. So I think that's gonna help a lot. But dude, yeah, I feel like we're just on the verge of something big. I don't know, like what's it like out in Mississippi? Like, are people getting more into it, or is it still kind of like a niche thing?
It's gaining popularity and whatnot, but it's still pretty niche. Now, like I gotta say, like in the South, there are some really, really talented grapplers, but we're kind of really far spread out, like within 3 to 4 hours of each other. Like we do have some world champions and whatnot. Uh, but and so but it's just not as concentrated as would be in San Diego or New York or something. But as far as the training down here, a lot of people really love Nogi. That's probably because it's just so hot and humid, like in third, so it's really just climate controlled. But yeah, a lot of people really, really just care about MMA more so than jiu-jitsu. And like it just goes back to that one guy in the UFC with the just bleed like painted across his chest. And which is funny is he is from South Mississippi. um but yeah, so it's growing, and like again, Gordon Ryan is doing so much for the sport. Like so many people are starting to follow him, uh and whatnot, and they don't even really know much about jujitsu itself, but they see him, and so whenever they talk to me about it, it's like, oh yeah, I follow this one guy, and then turns out to be Gordon Ryan. So it is growing, uh, but man, Mississippi, we're 10 years behind everyone on everything. So yeah, that's just what it is.
I think it'll pick up, and you're totally right. Like, I think what's happening is MMA is growing like crazy, and out here in Missouri is the same as what you described. Like, everyone's into MMA. No, hardly anyone knows jujitsu. Although jujitsu is gaining in popularity, and like in Springfield, Missouri, which is the closest big city to where I live out in the middle of nowhere. There's jujitsu gyms popping up all over. I think there's like 6 or 7 at this point. So jujitsu is doing really well in the cities, but in the rural areas, especially, like everyone wants to do MMA. Everyone wants an MMA gym or kickboxing gym, or the striking is getting really popular. But they are getting into jujitsu and wrestling and stuff like that. Wrestling is really big. Like the wrestling guys that I've met out in Missouri are really good. Like all the Missouri high school wrestlers I've trained with demolish me on the feet, honestly. Like they take me down so easily. It's crazy. I got beat up by an 18-year-old the other day. Shout out to Ty if he's listening. But what I'm getting at is I think that eventually between one championship and the UFC, it seems like both of those organizations are bought in on having jiu-jitsu be like a part of their thing, because one championship is doing a great job, and they've already put so much
Yeah,
into it. Like they've got the Rutolo brothers, who are like their big superstars. They got Mikey Musumeci, who's a big superstar right now. So they're already invested, right? And the UFC is
yeah,
trying to now compete with them because they're doing the UFC Fight Pass Invitational, and they're not gonna, like, Dana White's competitive as shit. Like he's
yeah,
gonna want to compete with that. He's not gonna just let them have the market share on jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? He's not just
yeah,
gonna be like, yeah, one championship can take the whole jiu-jitsu market, whatever. Like, no,
yeah. I mean,
he's gonna want in. you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly right. I mean, why do you think Gordon is now UFC? I'm sure Dana White offered him a good chunk of change to make that transition. Um, but yeah, like going back real quick to uh stuff down here in South Mississippi. Like I'm in my gym specifically, we're very, very like spoiled because we've got quite a bit of UFC fighters, some former, some active, and even one championship fighter, and so Alan Belcher, Brandon Davis, Chase Sherman, Jason Knight, uh, Han- Hannah Guy is in our gym, and Odie Delaney, he's with one, and so like we're just completely spoiled. And then like there's several other gyms in the area as well, and one of them is Leonardo Delgado Academy, and he just won Nogi Worlds again, and so like they're like it's some pretty prolific stuff going down here.
Dude, that's awesome. I've wanted to come train with Alan Belcher for a while, so I'll have to come down there and hang out. But he's good
Anytime.
friends with my buddy Mike Stewart, who's been on this podcast before.
Okay.
I think Mike's in his mastermind that Alan does. But he
Yeah.
talks about Alan Belcher all the time and how Alan's like helped him a lot. So I really want to get down there. I've heard Alan's the man.
Yeah. He's a he wipes the floor with me.
I've 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 experienced these UFC guys. They're no joke. They get paid a lot of money to do this for a reason. But
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
awesome. Well, Roger, I got to wrap this up, man. But before we go, is there anything else that you want to talk more about, or is there anything that you feel like we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
Um, yeah, so like just real quick. I mean, I could talk for a long time. But yeah, real quick. Yeah, jujitsu has really helped me become a better person, a better human being, but also being able to interact with people because that's not always the easiest. And it's helped my mental health, with bouts of depression and anxiety and all kinds of stuff, so like it's jujitsu has never done me wrong. And so if anyone's listening and they're kind of on the fence, man, it'll change your life for the better.
Dude, it really will. And I just want to talk about that a little longer. Like, when it comes to like communicating with other people, how has jiu-jitsu helped you with developing, your communication ability and stuff like that? Because that's something that I've thought about a lot lately. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this.
um well, one, like just being able to like one, you know how are you doing? Because like a lot of times I'm super bad at that. People's like, are you acting with people on a personal level instead of uh like, I don't know, just a touch and go kind of thing. Like it's kind of helped with small talk, like talking with people before class starts, like quickly catching up and whatnot. And it's just, the talk. It's helped with small talk.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot with small talk too. Small talk is something I struggle with a lot. Like it's really hard to do sometimes. I always tell people I'm not a fan of small talk. I just like big talk. I just like to go right for the big stuff. I
Yeah.
like to skip over the small stuff. But dude, Roger, this has been awesome. Is there anything you want to promote, or like where can people find you if they want to come train or want to hang out or connect with you?
I train at American Top Team in D'Iberville, Mississippi. Uh, everyone's welcome all the time. My personal Instagram is armbear BJJ, and me and my coach, we just launched a jiu-jitsu apparel business focusing on jiu-jitsu gi fanny packs and t-shirts, and we've got a lot of really cool stuff coming out. Uh, it's called Jiu-Jitsu Bum Bags. The Instagram is Jiu-Jitsu Bum, and so yeah, we're that's kind of just focusing on the jiu-jitsu bum lifestyle and a nomadic jiu-jitsu kind of person. So yeah, we're really excited about that. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that. I'll put links down to everything that you mentioned down below. And that sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to check out that fanny pack. That sounds pretty
Sweet.
badass.
Thanks, man.
It's awesome.